Man, I really enjoyed talking about battle tendency during my last lecture, and now I'm wondering if I should do a second video on battle tendency. But, who am I going to talk about? It has so many great, interesting characters, and each of them could easily have a lecture done about how their beliefs and personalities affect how they fight and the outcomes of those fights. Whether it's Wamu's pride and sportsmanship, Kars's fear and callousness, or... Hold on, is that a fucking
German soldiers?
Like any popular franchise, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is host to a whole plethora of video essays, and every protagonist and their entourage, main antagonist, and even many of the minor antagonists get coverage. One exception to this, however, is Rudolf von Stroheim, who, at the time of writing this, hasn't received a single dedicated video essay that I can find, despite appearing in Battle Tendency before Caesar, outlasting him in the story, and playing a pivotal role in the final battle. This isn't entirely surprising, not only because his role in the story is a little vague, but also because he's a fucking Nazi. Not just a Nazi, but a Nazi who's portrayed as having likable characteristics, and is depicted standing side by side with the heroes of the story. That is a whole canned worm factory right there. Call me woke, but the Nazis were bad guys, perhaps even the worst guys, and not only did their reign of terror occur less than 100 years ago, but their ideology is still present as a blight on humanity. So I totally get the sentiment that some people have that making light of the Nazis the way Araki did was insensitive. However, I'm certain Araki's intention wasn't to glorify Nazis. In fact, he portrayed the Nazis as the opposite of what his series is all about, and antithetical to what it means to be alive. Whether or not his handling of the Nazis in his story was tactful is for you to decide, but that judgment would be better passed if we have a better understanding of what exactly Araki was saying about them, and more importantly, we need to decipher Stroheim's purpose. The first thing we learn about the Nazis in the story is that they're bad people. In fact, in Stroheim's first appearance, he speedruns his way to being JoJo enemy number 1. He and a squad of Nazis are on a mission to Mexico to study an ancient vampire man who's petrified in a stone pillar, because this is a bizarre adventure. They do this by taking over a hacienda and building an underground laboratory beneath it. In the space of just one chapter, and at the tail end of just one episode, Stroheim is shown terrorizing 2 women who he's forced to be his servants, forcing information out of Speedwagon, hype man of the JoJo clan, while raving about the superiority of German science, and executing a cell full of prisoners for a science experiment, leaving only one alive. Not only is Stroheim well established as a villain, but also a familiar kind of villain. He gives off strong Dio vibes, taking over a castle-like estate, belittling women, and callously killing innocent civilians. Araki is clearly not saying Stroheim or the Nazis are good, but one of the themes of Battle Tendency is looking beyond good and evil to respect or at least understand someone deeper. Remember the cell full of prisoners Stroheim executed? Well, he actually told them to select one out of them to be sacrificed and that the rest would go free. Instead, a young boy steps forward and offers up his own life. Not only does Stroheim respect the boy's bravery, but even includes the boy in his definition of those fit to live. However, he rewards the boy's bravery with cruelty, killing everyone in the cell except for the boy who wanted to save them. So that covers Stroheim's first appearance, and already we know who he is at his core. He has 3 fundamental beliefs. 1, he believes in German superiority and the superiority of German science. 2, courage is worthy of respect and a characteristic of those fit to live, in his own words. And 3, cruelty is strength. Stroheim's ideology is further explained by his theme song, which, while it wasn't implemented by Araki himself, is still a fitting summation of who he is and a bit of artistic genius on the part of David Productions. The song is in German, but I'll play a small part of it with English translations. Shout out to the JoJo wiki for the translation, by the way. A lot of these lines are direct references to the novel Thus Spoke Zarathustra, written by a famous German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche. One of Nietzsche's concepts discussed in the book is the concept of the Übermensch, or Overman. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch was a moral state of being where one overcomes simple, conventional morality in exchange for a moral system they believe based on their own reasoning and not just because they've been told it's right. A distorted racial version of the Übermensch concept would later be a pillar of Nazi ideology. It makes a lot of historical sense that Stroheim believes in these concepts, but he doesn't seem to really be a pure follower of Nietzsche's Übermensch nor the Nazi Übermensch. Taking the lyrics at face value, Stroheim simply believes that humans are naturally evil, and that by being more evil, you become a more complete and superior human. So that's Stroheim's philosophy. Courage is commendable, cruelty is strength, and Germany and German science is the greatest in the world, making him better than everyone else. However, even in his first appearance in Battle Tendency, two of his beliefs are proven wrong. The ancient vampire pillar man that they captured, named Santana by the way, escapes their airtight, super-advanced containment cell, easily thwarting and making a mockery of German science. Stroheim's cruel nature also doesn't really do anything to protect him here, as he and his men are suddenly the victims of someone else's cruelty. The only reason Stroheim survives is because Joseph comes and saves the day, and this is where Stroheim's purpose in the story starts to crystallize. Joseph, while being a bit of a jerk, is kind-hearted, and is even motivated by kindness as he's come to save Speedwagon. Joseph fares far better against Santana than Stroheim's men did, but Joseph doesn't use German science or even science of any kind. Instead, he uses supernatural life energy that he generates by breathing good. The only one of Stroheim's ideas that isn't proven wrong in this story is that courage is valuable. Stroheim was actually frozen with fear during the whole encounter, until Joseph bravely attempted to drag Santana into the sunlight while Santana was chopped in half. However, Santana partially reforms and stops Joseph from advancing. Stroheim is inspired by Joseph's bravery and literally leaps into action, even sacrificing his own leg to open the exit to the secret lab so they can destroy Santana with sunlight. Then Santana jumps into Stroheim's leg because this is a bizarre adventure, so Stroheim blows himself up, allowing Joseph to finish Santana off. Valuing courage is the only one of Stroheim's values that produce a positive result. Not only that, but he had to work with, in his own words, an annoying Englishman. Germans and German science didn't save the day. Working together with the foreigner who uses magic sunlight punches did. Now, way later in the story, Stroheim returns, now resurrected as a cyborg because this is a bizarre adventure. And, now that he's a cyborg, Stroheim's purpose in the story becomes obvious. He is Joseph's opposite. Think about it. Joseph is an Englishman living in America whose father was in the British Air Force. His ties are to the Allied powers. Joseph gets his powers from good breathing, a basic function of the human body. Joseph grows and changes throughout Battle Tendency, growing more mature as he makes more friends and connections. Joseph also has the longest lifespan of any JoJo, going on to live into his 90s. Now look at Stroheim. He's a Nazi, a member of the Axis powers. Stroheim gets more powerful by becoming a cyborg, by partially abandoning his humanity, which is in stark contrast to Joseph's powers coming from his natural bodily functions. Stroheim is stagnant, never really changing his beliefs, and is never pictured with any real friends or connections. He also dies young in the Battle of Stalingrad, dying in vain for an ideology that gets defeated soon after his death. His last words are him screaming about German superiority, despite it crumbling around him. Not only is Stroheim Joseph's opposite, he's also Joseph's lesser. There's a scene where they both try to keep the Redstone of Aja, the main MacGuffin of the part, away from Kars, the big bad of the part. Stroheim, while catching Kars off guard at first, gets easily defeated. Even as a cyborg, a living embodiment of his beloved German science, the Pillarmen make a joke out of him. Joseph, meanwhile, takes the Redstone of Aja away from Kars, and even leaves Kars careening down a cliff, using nothing but quick wits, mind games, and good breathing. The final battle with cars later in the part is actually a mirror of Joseph and Stroheim's fight with Santana. Again, Stroheim helps, but Joseph does most of the work and is the one who finishes cars off. And again, Stroheim is only helpful here because he temporarily works antithetically to some of his beliefs. And, like when they fought Santana, the only thing that makes Stroheim likable or relatable is his admiration of Joseph. Despite becoming a cyborg, Stroheim's beliefs and combat prowess are trumped by that annoying Englishman who can breathe good. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a story about life and what it means to be alive, but Stroheim operates counter to the ideals of the series. Despite being funny on the outside, just a goofy caricature of a Nazi, he's also a cautionary tale, and a reminder that we should respect others and be open to change like Joseph, instead of being stubborn and cruel like Stroheim, who died young, was never mentioned again, and left no legacy. Turns out the Nazi isn't supposed to be a role model. With that in mind, did Araki handle the topic of Nazis well? Was this a responsible use of them in the story? Probably not. But this is just my reading of his intentions, which might not even be correct, and not a judgment of the outcome. Please leave your thoughts on Stroheim, or even this lecture, in the comments below. Also, criticism is always welcome here, as I know I'm far from infallible. All I ask is that you be kind and keep an open mind. After all, nobody wants to be a Stroheim, right? Hello! Thanks for watching this episode of Professor Preston. If you enjoyed this video and would like to help out the channel, subscribing, leaving a like, or sharing the video with your friends would go a long way. Even if you don't, thanks again for watching.